I'm going to be stuck to the leitmotif of the conference, so I'm not going to explain a lot about Chimera and its business model. I'm going to be very straightforward, although the business model is something that is really worth hearing, we think. However, one of our divisions is called Chimera Mobility, and within Chimera Mobility, we decided to create something that is called QRR, that is under Chimera Responsible Racing. We wanted to escape from the sustainable, ecological, biological, kind of type of message, but responsible in order to address, let's say, a sense of future, a sense of responsibility on whatever endeavor we are into in our mobility division. QRR is in charge of our motorsport activities. Our motorsport activities are not aiming to create any kind of Formula One type stuff or anything like that. We want to test bed technologies and to prove them in a real environment and to race them. So in order to gain a bit of credibility, as we are a bunch of families that have invested into this business and we are financing it with our own money, in order to gain credibility, although we have been involved in the motorsport business as aficionados for years, we decided to create something initially and to fund something initially that could gain credibility around the globe with kind of a breakthrough that could spearhead our efforts in this field. So we established a partnership with IMSA in the US and with the American Le Mans Series that are backed by the ACO. Then we have a global technical partner that is Altran. Altran is a very well-known engineering company. It's a French-based company with more than 20,000 employees, 19 countries, and a turnover of 1.8 billion euros, so it's a massive company. Then we close another partnership with Formula Drift, that is the American expression of the drift championships in Japan, and with Chairman Jim Leo. Then we closed the partnership with French Formula, that still is the very unique electric formula on an F3 chassis. It's a Ross Brown chassis. Mercedes GP chassis, and then with our dear friend TTX GP, Azhar Hussain, who's present here and who will be speaking later. The aim of this partnership is to gain credibility and to create awareness around the globe. Long story short, we do believe that the mobility in a mass production field would require inevitably a process of convincing people about these technologies. However, these technologies are experiencing an extremely short period of longevity. So we hear announcements by IBM. I had a meeting with some IBM people the other day. Now they are announcing their 500-mile battery pack, 500-mile range battery pack. That means that, whatever is below 150 miles is going to suffer a real pain if these guys are really able to put this in the market within the next 2 years. Meaning that all investments in CapEx, in heavy assets, hard assets, and so on, during those years are going to be quite difficult to amortize or to justify in front of a board. So feeling that kind of fear, let's say if you take the internet longevity, the internet guys used to speak about 3 months in terms of longevity. So a year, whatever is a year in an average industry, it takes 3 months on the internet industry. We feel the same way with the, let's say, sustainable mobility thing. So we try to test as much technologies as possible, to embrace as much partners as possible, so we can create a bunch of really powerful brains around a single focus that is creating whatever comes in the future. We have our bet initially was on battery-powered vehicles, but by no means we are stuck to that concept, and we are working on fuel cells. Our next car is a fuel cell race car, so based on a lightweight GT race car. So we are working in these different categories. The one on top left is a 700 horsepower full electrical car. I've been racing it. I've been doing 272 kilometers an hour in Montmeló racetrack with it during 8 laps, so performs very well. When we first faced this car, we said, okay, I'm amateur racer myself, so I say, okay, I want to enjoy the same thrills and, joys and pains of racing an average GT car. Let's fit a sequential gearbox on it. So we put a sequential Hewland NGT sequential gearbox on it, 6-speed sequential gearbox. I mean, no need of a 6-speed sequential gearbox. We have 1100 Newton meter torque on this car, meaning that we can absolutely avoid utilizing a gearbox. But we said, no, let's try to put a gearbox on it because there are no gearboxes on electric cars. Well, let's put one. I can tell you it performs amazingly well, and that's allowing us reaching 187 miles an hour. The second one is what we call our lightweight GT generation. It's much closer to the people. This car here cost us roughly above $2.5 million, the one on top left. The second one, we can make it for 192 grand. On a very small series of 4 cars. It's a 400 horsepower car, sequential gearbox, but just 4 gears.
How many horsepower?
400 horsepower, so roughly 300 kilowatts. I jump over the one on the top right. The one down there is our partner's Formula car, so we are creating a series for that car. It's full electric also. 250 horsepower, but it's a lightweight. Well, the range on the car on the left, on the top left, the range we are achieving with 700 horsepower is 20 minutes. At 450 horsepower, we are reaching 30 minutes. The one in the middle, we are doing exactly the same times, 20 and 30, because we have a switch and we can switch power. We can reduce power during the race. The one below that is 20 minutes. The one in the middle is a curious thing we've done in partnership with a UK-based company, that is Alex Letterelio's company in South London. That car there, it's a car that we have set up in 2 different modes. Drifting mode, we have to engage with younger people, with tech-savvy people, with people that could embrace these technologies. We have to convince them, the iPad guys, the iPhone guys, the PS guys, and so on. And no matter how young we may look, we are in our 50s, so, so we have to embrace within teenagers and 20-somethings, so they embrace these technologies, and they finally, if you take license plates in the hands of younger people in US, they have decreased by 22% in the last 15 years. So younger people is no longer buying cars. They are not interested in buying cars. They don't care about it. It's expensive. It's no longer a sign of, superficial kind of status or something like that. But they are willing to embrace something. We have requests. We have hundreds of messages from US, Norway, Sweden, UK, Italy, France, not Spain because we are bankrupt. But from the rest, let's say almost the rest of the world. We receive messages from these people. When are you going to build this bike? When are you going to sell these cars? How much is it going to be? And we are very clearly focused just in motorsport because what we want to do is to address a message. We are not car manufacturers. That's the task and the job of Porsches, BMWs, Ford, or GMs, or the GMs of the world, but, or Dongfeng in China, with which we are in conversations. So this is their job. They are mass producers. We just have to bring the technologies, test bed them, see if they are reliable, safe, and so on, and then pass it on to the mass producers. So that's the drift car, and it's also a lightweight GT configuration. That car is 250 kilowatt, although we are making the 300 kilowatt version, 400 horsepower. And then we have the fantastic Mavisen bikes by Azar Hussain here, and the TTX GP Endeavor. Well, this is a brief overview. It's going to take me 2 seconds on how Chimera works. Chimera is not about CapEx. It's not about massive investments. It's not about, extremely complicated structures. Chimera is about creating partnerships. So this is how the thing works. However, you have the presentation available. Just ask Stephen for it. But it's an interesting model to have a look. And I'm done.